The Vampire King was standing under the rain before he understood why. Water coursed down marble-pale skin that had not felt weather in 3 centuries, soaking through a coat that cost more than most mortals earned in a year, and Casimir Ravencourt did not move. Across the street, under the broken street lamp that cast everything in shades of amber and shadow, a woman was laughing. Not the brittle sound of someone pretending catastrophe was comedy, but genuine laughter, bright and helpless, as oranges rolled across wet asphalt and a split paper bag hung limp in her hands. One orange wobbled toward the gutter. Another made it halfway across the intersection before a taxi swerved. The woman, small, dark-haired, wearing a jacket 2 sizes too large and sneakers held together with duct tape, lunged after them like they were made of gold instead of citrus and Florida sunshine. Casimir moved. He did not decide to move. His body simply carried him across 4 lanes of late-night traffic, through the space between heartbeats where even human eyes would have registered only a blur of white and shadow, and then he was crouched on wet pavement, gathering runaway groceries with hands that had signed execution orders that morning. "Oh my God," the woman said, still laughing, breathless. "Thank you. Just the stupid bag, and I only live 2 blocks away. I thought I could—" She shoved wet hair out of her face, and Casimir saw her clearly for the first time. Young, mid-20s perhaps, a face that would never launch ships or topple kingdoms, but open in a way he had not seen in longer than he could calculate. Mortal faces usually closed when they looked at him, some animal awareness making them step back even when they did not understand why. This one stayed open. Her eyes were dark brown, almost black in the streetlight, and still crinkled at the corners with leftover amusement. "The bag was already splitting at the store," she continued, accepting the oranges he handed her and trying to pile them into her remaining intact bag, which was also beginning to tear. "I told myself it would be fine. I'm very good at lying to myself. It's practically a talent. Oh no, not the eggs." The egg carton had landed corner first. Casimir could hear the crack of shells, smell the beginning of leak. He picked it up carefully, testing the weight, then looked at the woman's 2 bags, both now visibly compromised, and the scattered remains of her shopping trip spread across 20 feet of sidewalk. "How far did you say you lived?" His voice came out rougher than intended, unused. He had spoken perhaps 30 words all evening before this, all of them commands. 2 blocks. Really, it's nothing. I can make 2 trips, or just, I'll carry the loose ones, it's fine." But she was looking at the pile with the expression of someone doing mental calculus and not liking the results. Casimir gathered bags, all of them, including the splitting ones, carefully redistributed so the weight would hold. The woman made a noise of protest. "I can't let you. You're already soaked, and I don't even know, thank you, really. But you don't have to—" 2 blocks, Casimir repeated. It was not a question. She stared at him. He watched the assessment happen, the way humans always assessed, checking for danger. But whatever she saw, and she must have seen something, the white hair that marked him, the bone-pale skin, the complete absence of anything resembling normal, she apparently decided to file under Good Samaritan rather than threat. "Okay," she said finally, soft. "Thank you." "That's thank you. I'm Lily Foster." "Casimir." He did not offer his house name. On this street, in this rain, carrying groceries toward whatever life she lived 2 blocks away, he did not feel like a Ravencourt. She started walking, and he followed, and something that had been wound tight in his chest for months, years, perhaps, or decades. Time blurred when you had too much of it loosened a fraction. Lily talked as they walked. She had a job at a call center, terrible pay, worse hours, but it meant she could keep the night kitchen running, and the night kitchen was the whole point, really. Everything else was just funding. "Night kitchen?" Casimir asked, and immediately regretted it because it would extend the conversation, and he should want to deliver these bags and disappear back into the rain and the comfortable isolation he had worn for 300 years. He did not want that. The realization arrived with the same dreamlike absence of decision that had sent him across the street in the first place. "Oh, it's nothing official," Lily said, turning down a side street lined with row houses in various states of decay and defiance. "There's this laundromat. Been closed for 2 years, but the owner's son gave me a key because I helped him pass statistics, so I set up a camping stove and some folding tables, and between midnight and 4 a.m., anyone who needs food can come eat. Free. No questions, no paperwork, no proving you deserve it, just food. She said it like it was simple. Like feeding strangers in the dead hours of the city was just something people did, required no explanation or justification. Here, she added, stopping in front of a narrow building with a faded awning. The windows were papered over from inside, but Casimir could hear movement within, smell coffee and something baking, hear the low murmur of voices. Lily unlocked the door and held it open. You can just, actually, would you mind bringing them in? The table's just inside, I can take them from there. Casimir stepped through, and the warmth hit him first. Not temperature vampires did not feel heat or cold, not really, but the weight of it. The texture. Humans, maybe 15 of them, scattered around mismatched tables. A camping stove set up on what used to be the checkout counter, 2 hot plates beside it. The smell of eggs frying, toast, coffee, and underneath it all the distinctive scent of humans who did not have regular access to showers. Every face turned toward him, and Casimir watched them all do what humans had done for 300 years. Look. See something their hindbrains screamed at them to fear, and find ways not to flee. One woman gathered her child closer. A man near the back tensed, hands flat on the table like he was preparing to stand. Everyone, this is Casimir, Lily announced, taking bags from his hands and beginning to unload onto a card table that served as prep space. He saved my oranges from becoming street pancakes. Casimir, this is everyone. We're very friendly and not at all scary despite appearances. This last part was directed at her clientele with a grin that somehow gentled the room back toward ease. I should go, Casimir said. He had stayed too long already, been seen by too many eyes. His second, Theron, would be waiting with the car, and beyond that, a council meeting that would run until dawn, and 100 small decisions that a king had to make about territory and blood prices and which house was encroaching on which hunting ground. Wait, Lily said. She was holding an orange, already peeled, divided into segments. She held it out to him like an offering. For the help, and for getting soaked on my behalf. Casimir looked at the fruit in her small, work-worn hand. At the smile on her face, unguarded and genuinely grateful. At the room full of humans she was feeding in the middle of the night because she had decided their hunger was her business. I don't, he started, then stopped. I don't eat. I can't eat that. I haven't consumed anything but blood in 3 centuries. All true statements, all impossible to say without explaining what he was. Thank you, he said instead, taking the orange carefully, making sure his fingers did not touch hers. But I'm not hungry. Give it to someone who needs it. Something flickered across her face, disappointment, maybe, or curiosity. But she nodded and set the orange down. Then come back sometime, she said. If you want, midnight to 4, 7 nights a week. I can always use help carrying things. It was clearly a joke, but Casimir found himself nodding once precise before he turned and walked back out into the rain. Theron was leaning against the car 3 blocks away, not bothering to hide his irritation. He was old, by vampire standards nearly 600, and had served the Ravencourt line for 4 of those centuries. He took his duties seriously, which meant he took Casimir's deviations from schedule as personal affronts. Sire, he said flatly, the council expects you in 30 minutes. Then drive faster, Casimir replied, sliding into the back seat. His coat was ruined, soaked through, and his hands still smelled faintly of oranges and cardboard. He did not go back. Could not go back, for all the reasons that made sense in daylight or whatever passed for daylight in a life lived entirely in darkness. He was Casimir Ravencourt, vampire king of the Eastern Dominion, and his time belonged to 1,000 negotiations, territorial disputes, blood contracts, and the endless maintenance of the veil that kept vampire society hidden from human notice. But 4 nights later, his driver detoured past the shuttered laundromat at 1 a.m., and Casimir saw the light behind the papered windows, saw the shapes moving inside. 5 nights after that, he got out of the car. Lily was at the stove, flipping what looked like grilled cheese sandwiches on a griddle when he walked in. She glanced up, did a visible double-take, and her whole face transformed into a smile. "Casimir, you came back. I was hoping well. I didn't actually think you would, but I hoped. Are you hungry? I have—" She looked around the chaotic space. "Actually, I'm not sure what I have. I planned for 15 and got 23, so I've been improvising. Do you like eggs? Please say yes, I have so many eggs." "I'm not hungry," Casimir said again. It was the truth, and also entirely beside the point. "You said you needed help carrying things." Her smile changed, softened into something that made his chest do something unprecedented and uncomfortable. "I always need help carrying things," she said. "I'm very small, and I overlook this constantly. There's a delivery from the food bank I need to pick up tomorrow at 6 p.m. Would that work? I know it's early, but they close at 7 and—" "I'll be here," Casimir said. He was there at 5:45, and he carried every box from the food bank truck to the laundromat while Lily signed paperwork and chatted with the delivery driver. When that was done, she had shopping that needed collecting from 3 different stores buying in bulk, where each offered the best prices, and Casimir found himself carrying bags through the city while Lily narrated her optimization strategy. "You have to track the sales," she explained, leading him into a grocery store that fluorescent lit and chrome cold. "Eggs are cheapest at the Save More on Tuesdays, but their produce is terrible, so I get vegetables at the Asian market on 5th, except carrots, which are somehow always cheaper at the corner store near my apartment. I have a spreadsheet. It's very elaborate. My roommate says it's unhinged, but my roommate also thinks cooking for strangers is unhinged, so her opinion is suspect." Casimir said nothing, just followed her through the aisles and carried what she selected. She bought practically bulk rice, dried beans, pasta, canned tomatoes, onions, potatoes, eggs in flats of 5 dozen. Nothing fresh except what would be used immediately, nothing expensive except olive oil, which she justified out loud. "It's the one thing I splurge on," she said, hefting a large bottle. "Because everything tastes better with good olive oil, and if you're eating at a laundromat at 2 a.m., you deserve good olive oil. You deserve better than that, actually. You deserve a full table and a clean kitchen and people who care, but I can at least provide the olive oil part." She said these things like they were obvious. Like of course every person deserved care and attention and good olive oil, regardless of their circumstances. Casimir had spent 300 years in a world where worthiness was calculated in power and blood and lineage, where humans were resources to be managed, sources of sustenance to be protected the way a farmer protected livestock. Not with malice, but with clear-eyed practicality. This small mortal woman with her spreadsheets and her camping stove was operating from an entirely different calculus, and Casimir could not look away from it. He came back the next night, and the night after that. He never ate, never explained, just appeared sometime between midnight and 1 a.m. and made himself useful. He carried things. He fixed the broken folding table with hands that had not done manual labor since he was human. He stood in the corner and watched Lily work, watched the way she moved through the space with efficient grace, the way she spoke to everyone who came through the door like they were neighbors, friends, people who mattered. On the 8th night, she asked him, "Why are you here?" It was 2:30 a.m. The last visitor had just left, and Lily was washing dishes in a plastic tub since the laundromat had no functioning sink. Casimir was drying, a task he had taken up without being asked. He could have lied. Should have lied. Instead, he said, "I don't know." Lily looked at him for a long moment, hands still in the soapy water. "That's a better answer than most people would give," she said finally. "Honesty is good. I like honesty." "Why do you do this?" Casimir asked, gesturing at the space around them. "Feed strangers, spend your money, your time." "Because they're hungry," Lily said, like it was that simple. Then, after a pause, "My mom was homeless for a while when I was a kid, after my dad left. We lived in our car for 8 months. People helped us, brought us food, let us use their showers, didn't call the cops when we parked overnight in their neighborhoods. I can't—" She stopped, her hands stilling in the water. "I can't pay them back, those specific people. Most of them I don't even remember. But I can do this. I can be someone who helps. That's not charity. It's just being human." Casimir said nothing. He had not been human in a very long time, and he was becoming increasingly certain he had never been human in the way Lily meant it. On the 12th night, he brought food. Not normal food. Casimir had no idea how to shop for human cuisine, no concept of what people actually ate versus what kept them alive. But he had resources, and he had staff, and he had a housekeeper who owed him several favors. He arrived at midnight with a car full of restaurant-quality supplies, fresh vegetables, good cuts of meat, bread from a bakery that supplied the finest establishments in the city, cheese that cost more per pound than Lily probably made in a day. Lily took one look at the first box and her eyes went huge. "Casimir, where did this come from? I thought you could use it." He kept unloading, not looking at her. "For the kitchen. This is hundreds of dollars of food, maybe thousands. I can't accept this." "You already have. It's in your building." Casimir set down another box, this one full of pasta in shapes Lily had probably never seen outside of expensive Italian restaurants. "Casimir." She put her hand on his arm, and he froze. It was the first time she had touched him deliberately. Her palm was warm through his sleeve, her fingers small and strong. Why? He could not tell her the truth. The truth was that he was a king who had not cared about anything in decades, who had let his existence narrow to duty and control and the maintenance of an empire that ran on blood and secrecy. The truth was that watching her feed strangers with a camping stove and a spreadsheet had cracked something open in him that he had thought sealed over centuries ago. The truth was that he came here every night now, because it was the only time he felt like something other than a crown and a title and a weapon. "Because you need it," he said instead. "And I have it. It's not complicated." "It's very complicated," Lily said, but she was smiling, and she did not let go of his arm. "Thank you, really. I can feed twice as many people for a month with this, maybe more. Thank you." She organized the supplies with the same meticulous care she brought to everything, labeling boxes and creating a new spreadsheet on her phone for the expanded inventory. Casimir watched her work and felt the weight of dawn approaching, the invisible pull that would drive him back underground soon. "I have to go," he said, when the sky outside had started to shift from black to the particular darkness that came just before dawn. Lily looked up, and for just a moment, something like disappointment crossed her face. "Will you come back tomorrow?" "Yes." It was a promise, and Casimir kept his promises. He did not realize he was being followed until the 15th night. Theron was waiting in the car when Casimir emerged from the laundromat at 4 a.m., but he was not alone. Beside him, rigid with disapproval, sat a vampire Casimir knew too well. Elric the Chancellor, keeper of the Veil Codes, and the closest thing vampire society had to a high priest. "Sire," Elric said, his voice carrying the particular flatness of the extremely angry trying to sound neutral. "We need to speak." Casimir slid into the back seat. "Then speak." "Privately." "Here is private enough." Elric's jaw worked, but he continued. "You have been seen, multiple nights, entering and exiting a mortal establishment, carrying parcels like a servant, interacting with humans without feeding. The rumors are spreading, sire. People are asking questions. Let them ask. You are the king." Elric leaned forward, and his eyes held that particular fervor that marked the true believer. "You hold the Eastern Dominion because we believe you are strong enough to bear it, strong enough to maintain the veil, to keep our existence secret, to command respect and fear in equal measure. A king who is seen carrying groceries for mortals can still execute you for insubordination," Casimir said mildly, "if you would like a demonstration." Elric fell silent, but his expression remained fixed. Casimir recognized the look. He had seen it before, on the faces of counselors who thought they knew better than their king, who believed their interpretation of law and tradition superseded direct authority. "The Veil Codes are clear," Elric said finally carefully. "A sovereign may not be seen serving mortals. It undermines the natural order. It suggests weakness, and weakness spreads, sire. Today you carry bags for one human. Tomorrow, others begin to question why they cannot do the same. The discipline of centuries unravels. The veil tears." "The veil," Casimir said softly, "is maintained by secrecy, not theater. As long as humans do not know what I am, it holds." But our people know what you are. They know what you are doing. And they wonder why their king demeans himself. I am not having this conversation. Casimir opened the car door. Drive me home, Theron, and Elric finds something more productive to do with your eternal life than tracking my movements. But Elric's words stayed with him through the day, coiling in his mind while he slept in the sealed darkness of his chambers far beneath the city. The Veil codes were not merely tradition. They were the framework that had kept vampire society hidden and safe for millennia, the rules that prevented the kind of exposure that would bring hunters, governments, eradication. And one of the oldest, most fundamental codes was simple. Vampires did not serve humans. They ruled, protected, controlled, fed from, but they did not kneel. A vampire seen carrying packages, performing labor, behaving as a subordinate rather than a superior, became something humans could understand, could pity, could hunt. The codes had been written in blood and bitter experience, and they had kept his people alive. Casimir had sworn to uphold them when he took the crown. He went back that night anyway. Lily was teaching someone to cook when he arrived. A kid, maybe 19, skinny and jittering with something chemical in his blood. She had him at the griddle, patiently explaining how to tell when the pan was hot enough, how to flip an egg without breaking the yolk. It's all about confidence, she was saying. The spatula knows if you're scared. You have to commit to the flip. Like this, see? Confidence. The kid tried. The egg slid sideways, yolk breaking, white spreading into an abstract mess. He swore and started to pull back, but Lily caught his wrist. That's okay, that's fine. Broken eggs still taste good. You learn by doing, and doing means breaking some eggs. Try another one. Casimir watched from the doorway. The kid tried again. The egg flipped properly this time, and his whole face lit up with disproportionate pride. Lily beamed at him like he had just won a culinary championship. That's perfect. You're a natural. Here, you keep going. I'm going to start the rice. She turned and saw Casimir, and her expression did something complicated. Surprise, pleasure, but underneath it something that looked almost like relief. You came, she said. I said I would. I know, but... She stopped, shook her head. Never mind. I'm glad you're here. I have about 40 pounds of potatoes that need peeling if you're willing. I'm making shepherd's pie tomorrow, which is ambitious, but the meat was on sale and I have this theory about comfort food in March. Casimir peeled potatoes. It was a task he had not performed in centuries, and his hands remembered the motions with the strange clarity of muscle memory that persisted even through death and transformation. Beside him, Lily worked on pie crust, her hands quick and sure in the dough. Can I ask you something? She said after a while. Yes. Why don't you ever eat? Casimir's hands stilled. He had known this question would come eventually, had prepared no good answer for it. I have a medical condition, he said finally. It was not technically a lie. I can't process food normally. Oh. Lily's hands slowed in the dough. I'm sorry. That must be hard. Can you taste things? I remember what things taste like. Another non-lie. He could remember the taste of bread, meat, fruit, all the things he had eaten in his human life. The memories had not faded even after 300 years, though they had become distant, like recalling someone else's experiences. That's something, at least. Lily started working again, rolling the dough out with a wine bottle since she did not own a proper rolling pin. I think I'd miss taste more than almost anything. The world seems so much smaller without it. Yes, Casimir said quietly. It does. They worked in silence for a while, and it was comfortable in a way Casimir had not experienced since he was human, just two people working side by side, making food that someone else would eat. Simple, almost normal. At 3 a.m., a woman came in with a black eye and a split lip. She sat at the corner table, away from everyone else, and did not speak when Lily brought her food. Casimir watched Lily's face carefully not change, watched her keep her voice light and normal. Eggs and toast, Lily said, setting the plate down gently. There's coffee if you want it, and I'm making hot chocolate later if you prefer. You just let me know. The woman nodded once, Her hands were shaking. Lily came back to the prep area and started making hot chocolate immediately, even though the woman had not asked for it. Her movements were sharp now, angry in a way Casimir had not seen before. "I hate that I can't fix it," she said, low enough that only Casimir would hear. "I can give her food and a warm place to sit and maybe some hot chocolate, but I can't fix what's wrong. I can't make her safe." "You can make her safe here," Casimir said, "for these 4 hours. That's not nothing." Lily looked at him, and her eyes were bright with unshed tears. "It's not enough. Nothing is ever enough. That's not a reason to stop doing what you can." She held his gaze for a long moment, then nodded once and went back to the hot chocolate. She brought it to the woman with 2 marshmallows floating on top, and Casimir saw the woman's face soften just slightly, just enough. At 4:30, when everyone else had gone and Lily was cleaning up, she said, "You're a very strange person, Casimir." "Yes. You show up out of nowhere, you bring impossible amounts of food, you help for hours and never ask for anything, and you won't tell me why." "No, but you'll come back tomorrow." "Yes." Lily smiled, tired and genuine. "Okay, that's enough for now. I can work with mysterious." Casimir left before he could do something catastrophically stupid, like tell her the truth. The council meeting 3 nights later was supposed to be routine. Territory negotiations between 2 minor houses, a blood pricing dispute, updates on Vale security. Casimir sat in the carved stone chair that served as a throne in the underground chamber where the Eastern Dominion conducted its business, and listened to his counselors speak, and thought about Lily's hands in pie dough. Then Elric stood, and Casimir knew immediately that routine had just ended. "Sire, counselors, I bring a matter of grave concern." Elric's voice carried through the chamber, pitched for drama. "A matter that touches on the security of the Vale itself." The room went silent. Vale security was the one topic that superseded all others, the one thing every vampire in the Dominion cared about regardless of house or status. "Continue," Casimir said, keeping his voice flat. Elric produced a tablet, one of the modern devices vampires had adopted with varying degrees of enthusiasm. He touched the screen, and an image appeared on the chamber's projection wall. Casimir, standing in the rain, holding grocery bags. The angle was from above, probably a traffic camera or building security. His face was partially visible, along with the distinctive white hair, pale skin. Beside him, Lily, laughing. "This was taken 17 days ago," Elric said. "Since then, the subject has been seen entering and exiting a mortal establishment an average of 6 times per week, carrying parcels, interacting extensively with humans." Another image. Casimir loading boxes from a delivery truck. Another. Casimir visible through the papered window of the laundromat, standing beside Lily at the stove. "The subject," Elric continued, his voice heavy with meaning, "is our king." The silence that followed was profound. Casimir sat perfectly still, watching his council watch him, calculating reactions. Shock from some, confusion from others. From a few of the older members, something that looked like disappointment. "You bring pictures of your king before this council like evidence of crime," Casimir said softly. "Choose your next words carefully, Chancellor." "I bring evidence that the Vale codes are being violated, sire. By the one person who is supposed to uphold them absolutely." Elric's voice was steady, righteous. "Code 13 states clearly, no sovereign shall be seen in service to mortals. Code 21, no vampire of rank shall perform menial labor where humans may witness. Code 34, no interaction with humans shall suggest submission, subordination, or equality. You have violated all 3, sire, repeatedly, publicly. I have violated nothing." Casimir stood, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop. "I have been conducting private business in a private location. Nothing in those images reveals what I am. The Vale holds." "The Vale holds because we maintain discipline," Elric shot back, and there were murmurs of agreement around the chamber. "Because we remember that we are predators, they are prey, and that distinction must never blur. A king who carries bags for mortals is not a king. He is a servant. And if our king can serve, then what are the rest of us? What is our purpose, our place? Your place, Casimir said very quietly, is where I say it is. Your purpose is what I define it to be. I am Casimir Ravencourt, and I have held this dominion for 150 years, against challenges you cannot imagine. I have kept the veil intact, kept our people safe and fed and hidden. Do not presume to lecture me on duty, Chancellor. You have not earned it. But even as he said it, Casimir could feel the room's energy shifting. Elric was old, respected, and he had the codes on his side. And more than that, he had tapped into something deeper. The fear that lived in every vampire, the knowledge that they existed on sufferance, hidden in the cracks of the human world. Any behavior that challenged the careful hierarchy they had built felt like existential threat. I propose censure, Elric said, addressing the council now rather than Casimir, and cessation of the behaviors in question, for the security of us all. I second, someone said. Casimir did not bother to see who. The vote was not unanimous, but it did not need to be. 12 in favor, 7 against. Enough to pass a formal censure, though not enough to remove a king from power. Casimir looked at the council that had just formally rebuked him and felt nothing but a distant, weary contempt. Your censure is noted, he said. This meeting is concluded. He walked out of the chamber and did not stop walking until he was in his private rooms, far from councillors and chancellors and the weight of a crown he had worn for too long. Theron found him an hour later, standing at the window that showed nothing but stone and darkness. Sire, Theron said carefully, what will you do? I don't know. The council expects you to stop. If you continue, they will move against you. Not openly, not yet, but I know. Casimir turned away from the window. But if I stop, she will wonder why. She will ask questions I cannot answer. And I find, he stopped, searching for words. I find that I do not want to lie to her more than I already have. Then tell her the truth. The truth would terrify her, or she would not believe it. Either way, the result is the same. I lose access to the one place in this city where I feel like something other than a monster wearing a crown. Theron was silent for a long moment. Then, is she worth it? This mortal woman? Is she worth risking your throne, your dominion, everything you have built? Casimir thought about Lily's hands in dough, her smile when he walked through the door, the way she spoke to everyone who came into her makeshift kitchen like they mattered. He thought about her feeding strangers at 2 a.m. because once, when she was a child, strangers had fed her. I don't know, he said again, but I know that I will go back tonight, and tomorrow night, until she tells me not to come, or until the council removes me from power, whichever comes first. Then you should prepare, Theron said quietly. Because Elric will not stop with a censure, he believes he is saving vampire society. Men like that are dangerous. Casimir went back to the laundromat that night, and Lily took one look at his face and said, Something's wrong. It's nothing. It's not nothing. You look like I don't know what you look like. Tired. Are you tired? Can you be tired? She caught herself. Sorry, that's intrusive. You don't have to answer that. I'm tired, Casimir said. It was true in ways that had nothing to do with sleep. But I'm here. What needs doing? Lily studied him for another moment, then seemed to decide something. Everything needs doing. I'm behind on prep, the stove is acting up, and I promised a guy I'd make him a birthday cake because he mentioned he hasn't had one in 4 years. So I'm making a cake at 1 a.m. with a camping stove. It's going to be a disaster. Want to help? Yes. They made the cake. It was indeed a disaster, lopsided, burnt on one edge, frosted with what Lily called enthusiastic incompetence. And when they brought it out at 1:30 with a candle stuck in the top, the birthday guy cried. I'm 32, he said, staring at the flaming candle. I didn't think anyone would remember I even existed, let alone that I was born. You exist, Lily said firmly. And you matter, so make a wish. He made a wish. He blew out the candle. They all ate terrible cake, and it was the best food Casimir had witnessed in a century. At 4 a.m., when it was just the two of them again, Lily said, "Thank you for coming back. Even when you're tired, it means a lot." "Where else would I be?" Casimir said, and meant it. He did not see Elric following him when he left, did not notice the second set of photographs being taken, these ones showing Lily's face clearly, showing the laundromat's address, documenting everything that would be needed to identify and locate her. He should have been more careful. That was what kings did. They anticipated threats, protected the vulnerable, saw attacks before they landed. But Casimir had spent so many centuries being untouchable that he had forgotten how to watch his back. 3 nights later, Lily did not open the laundromat. Casimir arrived at midnight to find the building dark, the door locked. He checked his phone, a concession to the modern age he barely tolerated, but Lily had not called, had not messaged. He tried the door again, listened for movement inside, heard nothing. Panic rose in his chest, cold and unfamiliar. He had not felt fear in decades, had not had anything he could lose that mattered more than pride or power. He called Theron. "I need an address. Lily Foster lives within a few blocks of the laundromat on 7th. Find her." Theron had the information in 5 minutes. Casimir was at her apartment in 6. The building was a walk-up, 4 floors, narrow stairs that smelled of mildew and old cooking. Lily's apartment was on the 3rd floor, door closed but not locked. Casimir pushed it open and knew immediately that something was very wrong. The apartment was small, 1 room plus a tiny bathroom. Neat despite the poverty visible in every detail, the mattress on the floor, the milk crate serving as furniture, the clothes folded precisely on a single shelf, but neat in the way of someone who had left expecting to return quickly, not the abandonment of flight. Casimir moved through the space, cataloging details. Coffee mug in the sink, still damp. Laptop closed on the crate table, plugged in. Jacket, the oversized one she always wore, hanging on a hook by the door. She had not left voluntarily. She had not left at all. She had been taken. The knowledge settled over him with absolute certainty, and with it came a rage so pure and focused that his vision went white at the edges. Someone had taken her. To get to him, because he had been careless, had been selfish, had let himself want something without considering the cost. He called Theron again. "Someone has taken the mortal woman. Find out who, find out where. Do it now." "Sire." "Now, Theron, or you will spend the next century in a sealed box beneath the foundations. I am not making a request." Theron was silent for half a second. "Yes, sire." Casimir stood in Lily's small apartment and forced himself to think like a king instead of like whatever he had become. Who would take her? Why? The answer arrived with sickening clarity. Elric, to prove a point, to show that mortals were not worth protecting, not worth risking the veil, to force Casimir to choose between his throne and a human woman who meant nothing to vampire politics. Except she meant everything, and Casimir was beginning to understand that he had been building toward this moment since the night he crossed a rainy street to collect oranges. His phone rang. Theron. "The Chancellor has called an emergency council session, sire, in 1 hour. He says it regards a breach of veil security." Of course he has. Casimir looked around Lily's apartment one more time, memorizing details. If she was hurt, if they had harmed her, he would burn the Dominion to bedrock and start over. "I'll be there. And Theron, prepare for conflict." The council chamber was full when Casimir arrived. Not just the 12 councillors, but representatives from every major house in the Dominion. Elric had called a gathering, which meant whatever was about to happen would have witnesses, would be recorded in the annals as historic. Elric stood in the center of the chamber floor, and his expression was somber, righteous, the look of a man about to do something he believed was necessary but regrettable. "Sire," he said as Casimir entered, "thank you for coming. Where is she?" Casimir did not bother with preamble. "The mortal is safe, for now." Elric gestured, and 2 vampires brought Lily into the chamber. She was alive, not visibly harmed, but her eyes were wide with fear and confusion, and her hands were bound in front of her with silver cord not harmful to humans, but the symbolism was clear. Restrained, captive. Her eyes found Casimir, and he watched her expression cycle through relief, confusion, and then slow, dawning horror as she looked around the chamber. At the assembled vampires with their pale skin and white hair, at the stone walls carved deep underground, at the medieval architecture mixed with modern technology. "Casimir," she said, her voice small. "What is this?" "This," Elric said before Casimir could respond, "is a demonstration of what happens when a king forgets his purpose, when duty is abandoned for sentiment." "Let her go." Casimir's voice was very quiet. "Now." "She will be released unharmed," Elric said. "When you acknowledge that the codes exist for our protection and that your behavior has endangered us all, when you swear to sever all contact with mortals outside of sanctioned feeding. You don't get to make demands of your king, Chancellor. I make demands of a king who has forgotten what he is." Elric turned to address the full chamber now. "Look at him. He stands before us, ready to fight for a mortal, to risk everything, his throne, our security, the veil itself, for a human woman who will be dead in 60 years while we endure. This is not strength. This is the weakness that will destroy us." There were murmurs of agreement, but also dissent. The chamber was divided. Casimir could feel it. "She's done nothing to you," Casimir said. "She doesn't even know what you are. She's no threat to anyone. She is the threat you are willing to die for, which makes her the threat that could kill us all." Elric gestured at Lily. "Tell me, sire, would you tell her the truth? If I released her now, would you explain to this mortal woman what we are?" "Casimir!" Lily's voice was shaking. "What is he talking about? What are you?" Casimir looked at her, small and frightened and so breakably human, and made the decision that would either save or destroy everything. "I'm a vampire," he said. "So is everyone in this chamber. We're real. We exist. We've been hidden for millennia, and you've just been brought into the greatest secret in human history because the Chancellor wants to prove a political point." The silence that followed was absolute. Casimir had just violated the most fundamental law of his people: "Thou shalt not reveal thyself to mortals." The punishment for such violation was death, and no rank or title exempted anyone from that consequence. Lily stared at him. He watched her process the information, saw the disbelief, the search for the punchline, and then the slow, terrible acceptance as she looked around the chamber again and saw the proof in every white-haired, pale-skinned face. But that's not vampires aren't real," she said, but her voice had no conviction. "We are." Casimir took a step toward her. Every vampire in the chamber tensed, but he did not stop. "We're real. I'm one of them. I have been for 300 years. And I should have told you before, but I was a coward." "Did you—" Lily's voice cracked. "Were you going to kill me? Eat me? Drink my—" She could not finish the sentence. "No, never. I came to your kitchen because watching you feed strangers made me remember what it felt like to be human. I stayed because being near you made me want to be better than I have been for 3 centuries. He stopped, searching for words he had not used in 150 years. "I care about you. More than is wise. More than I can afford." "This is the weakness I speak of," Elric interjected. "He confesses to caring for prey, to wanting to be more human, as if humanity is aspirational rather than the state we transcended. This is not a king. This is a vampire who has forgotten what he is." "I know exactly what I am," Casimir said, not looking away from Lily. "And I know what you are too, Chancellor. You're terrified. Because if I can choose to carry groceries for a mortal woman, if I can find value and meaning in something as simple as helping her feed hungry people, then maybe all your codes and hierarchies and carefully maintained superiority are just stories you tell yourselves to feel powerful. Maybe we're not so far from human as you want to believe." "We are nothing like humans," Elric said, his voice rising. "We are stronger, faster, eternal. We do not age, do not sicken, do not die. We are apex predators, and they are our natural prey. That is not story. That is biology, is physics, is the order of the universe. Then why are you so afraid of one human woman? Casimir asked softly. The question hung in the air. Elric's expression twisted, and Casimir knew he had won at least part of the room. I am not afraid, Elric said. I am cautious. There is a difference, and to prove that we need not fear mortals, I propose a simple solution. The woman will be given a choice. She may leave, memory intact, with the knowledge of what we are, and we will see how long the veil survives when a mortal knows the truth. No, Casimir shook his head. You'll have her killed the moment she leaves this chamber, to protect your precious veil. I will do no such thing. She will be allowed to leave freely, to go anywhere, tell anyone. If she is believed, if she brings hunters, scientists, governments, then you will have been right, sire. The veil is weaker than the codes that protect it. And if nothing comes of her testimony, if the world continues as it has, then I will have been right. We are safe because we are strong, not because we hide like vermin. It was a trap, an elegant trap, because either way Elric won. Either Lily was dismissed as insane when she spoke the truth and lived the rest of her life knowing monsters were real and no one believed her. Or she brought enough proof to interest the wrong people, and vampire society would have to destroy her as an existential threat. Unless. Or, Casimir said slowly, she stays. Every face in the chamber turned toward him. Elric's expression went very still. What? She stays, Casimir repeated. You want to prove that mortals and vampires cannot coexist, that the moment they know what we are, they become enemies or prey. Fine. Let her stay. Let her live among us. Let her see how we feed, how we live. Let her work with us. If she runs, if she tries to expose us, you win. But if she stays, if she chooses to keep our secret, then we will have proved something different. And what is that? That the veil is maintained by choice, not just fear. That we can trust at least one mortal to see us fully and not seek our destruction. That maybe, Chancellor, your codes are not the only thing keeping us alive. The chamber erupted. Half the council was shouting approval, the other half objection. Casimir ignored all of it, looking only at Lily, who had gone very pale. Lily, he said, and his voice cut through the noise. I know this is terrifying. I know you have every reason to run as far and fast as you can, but I'm asking you to stay, here, in this chamber, in our world, for 1 month. Let me show you what we are, how we live, and at the end, you can choose stay and keep the secret or leave and do whatever you think is right. No coercion, no memory alteration, your choice, freely made. Why would I do that? Lily's voice was stronger now, anger beginning to burn through the fear. You lied to me, for weeks. Let me think you were just some strange guy who liked helping out, when actually you're a monster, Casimir said quietly. Yes, I'm a monster who has killed more people than you can imagine, who has ruled through fear and violence for a century and a half, who will live forever while everyone I might care about dies of old age. You should be terrified of me. You should run. But I don't want you to. I want you to stay. I want to prove that what you do, feeding strangers, caring about people just because they exist, I want to prove that matters, that it can matter even here, even among vampires. And he stopped, aware that the entire council was listening, that this moment would be recorded and analyzed for centuries. I want you to choose to stay, not because you're forced, because you want to. Lily looked at him for a long time. Then she looked around the chamber at the assembled vampires, at Elric with his righteous fury, at the stone walls and the impossible reality of monsters made flesh. If I stay, she said slowly, I want my kitchen. I'm not giving up feeding people just because vampires are having a political crisis. You would continue your mortal charity work? Elric sounded incredulous. While living among us? I would continue feeding hungry people, Lily corrected. Unless you're going to tell me vampires don't believe in food now just because you don't eat it. Casimir felt something loosen in his chest. That was Lily, facing down a chamber full of predators and negotiating for her kitchen. You can have your kitchen, he said. I'll make sure of it. And I want answers, real answers, about what you are, how this works, why you need blood, all of it. No more secrets. Agreed. And at the end of the month, if I decide this is insane and I want to go back to my normal life, you let me go. No memory changes, no what did you call it? Alterations. I leave with everything I know. Yes, even if it risks your veil. Even then. Lily took a deep breath. Okay, then I'll stay, for 1 month. And we'll see who's right. The chamber erupted again, but Casimir was not listening. He was watching Lily, still bound with silver cord, still surrounded by vampires, still choosing to stay rather than flee. She was either the bravest person he had ever met, or the most foolish, possibly both. Release her, he ordered. Now. The guards holding her hesitated, looking to Elric. The Chancellor's face was a mask of fury, but he nodded once, sharp. The silver cord fell away, and Lily rubbed her wrists, wincing. This is not over, Elric said, addressing Casimir. You have wagered everything on a mortal's goodwill. When she fails, and she will fail, sire, the council will remember that you chose her over the safety of your people. When she succeeds, Casimir said quietly, you will remember that the codes are not divine law. They are rules written by frightened vampires who could not imagine a world where we were strong enough to be honest. He turned to Lily and held out his hand. Come. I'll show you where you'll stay. She looked at his hand for a long moment before taking it. Her palm was warm, her pulse visible in her wrist, beating fast with adrenaline and fear. Casimir held her hand carefully, aware that he could break every bone in it without effort, and led her out of the council chamber into the deeper corridors of his underground domain. They walked in silence through stone passages lit with electric lights, past doorways that opened onto rooms both medieval and modern. The Eastern Dominion's seat of power had been built over centuries, each generation of vampires adding to the foundations, digging deeper into the earth where sunlight could never reach. It was part castle, part bunker, part luxury hotel for the undead. Finally, Casimir stopped outside a heavy wooden door. These will be your rooms. They're normally kept for visiting dignitaries, but they're empty now. There's no sunlight, but I can have full-spectrum lamps brought in if you want them, and you can come and go as you please. You're not a prisoner. Just a science experiment, Lily said. No, a guest and, Casimir hesitated, a friend, if you still want to be. Lily pushed the door open and looked inside. The room was large, furnished with a mix of antique and modern furniture, a bed that looked like it belonged in a castle, bookshelves lining 2 walls. A doorway led to what looked like a bathroom. This is where visiting vampire dignitaries stay? She asked. Yes. It's nicer than anywhere I've ever lived. I imagine so. She turned to look at him, and her expression was unreadable. I'm still angry at you, for lying. I know. But I understand why you did, I think. If I was something out of nightmare stories, I'd probably avoid mentioning it too. We're not nightmares, Casimir said, or not only nightmares. He struggled for words. We're real. We exist. We have culture, politics, art, love, all the things humans have. We just also drink blood and burn in sunlight and live forever. It's complicated. Show me, Lily said. You promised answers. So show me. How do you feed? Where does the blood come from? Casimir had known this question would come, had dreaded it, because the truth was complicated and would sound monstrous no matter how he presented it. Come with me, he said. He led her deeper into the complex, down to the levels where the feeding chambers were located. Lily followed silently, her hand still in his, though he could feel her tension increasing with every step. The feeding hall was busy when they arrived. 20 humans were arranged in comfortable chairs, each with a vampire beside them. Classical music played softly. The lighting was low, amber-toned. It looked more like a high-end blood donation center than a nightmare. We call them donors, Casimir explained quietly. They're humans who know what we are and have agreed to provide blood in exchange for money. Good money enough to live comfortably, pay off debts, support families. They come in once a week, we take a pint, they leave. It's legal, regulated, safe. They're screened for diseases, and we have doctors on staff to monitor their health. Lily stared at the scene. One of the donors, a middle-aged man, was reading a book while the vampire beside him fed from his wrist. The vampire's fangs, white and delicate as needles, were buried in the man's vein, but the man seemed barely aware, absorbed in his novel. They don't look scared, Lily said. They're not. Most of them have been doing this for years. It doesn't hurt. Our saliva has an anesthetic property, and they're well compensated. For many of them, this is their primary income. You're still drinking their blood. Yes, we require blood to survive, human blood specifically. We've tried alternatives, animal blood, synthetic blood, various supplements, but nothing works long-term. Human blood is our only food. Casimir watched her face carefully. I know how it sounds, but we've spent centuries developing systems that let us feed without killing. Most vampires in the Eastern Dominion haven't killed a human for sustenance in decades. We have rules, codes, though different ones than the Chancellor loves so much. But you've killed people. Yes, many. When I was younger, when the systems didn't exist. And criminals when necessary. Enemies in territorial wars. I am not innocent, Lily. I will never be innocent again. But I can be better than I was. We all can. Lily watched the feeding hall for a long time. Casimir stood beside her and did not try to fill the silence. She needed time to process, to reconcile what she had believed about the world with what it actually contained. Your kitchen, he said finally. What you do, feeding people who need food. We have the same problem here, blood supply, making sure there's enough, that it's ethically sourced, that the donors are treated well. You said once that supply without dignity is the problem. You were right. And it applies here too. Lily turned to look at him, and something in her expression had shifted. The fear was still there, but underneath it was the same analytical focus she brought to her spreadsheets, to optimizing grocery shopping across 3 stores. You're asking me to help you solve vampire logistics, she said slowly. I'm telling you that what you know how to feed people with limited resources, how to maintain dignity in systems designed to strip it away is valuable, even here, especially here. This is insane. Yes. I'm a dropout working at a call center. I feed people with a camping stove. You're asking me to consult on vampire feeding systems like I'm some kind of expert. You are an expert at caring, at seeing people as people, regardless of circumstances. That expertise is in short supply in this chamber. Lily looked back at the feeding hall, at the donors and vampires, the careful choreography of need and supply. I need to think, she said, about all of this. I need time. Take all the time you need. I'll have food brought to your room, real food, human food, and if you want to leave, to go up to the surface, just tell the guards. They'll escort you. Guards. For your protection, not to keep you prisoner. Elric is not happy about this situation. I want to make sure you're safe. From vampires. I need protection from vampires. Lily laughed high and slightly hysterical. This is my life now. This is what I'm doing. Casimir caught her hand before she could spiral further. Lily, look at me. She did, and her eyes were too bright, shock beginning to set in. You are safe, he said, pouring absolute certainty into the words. I will not let anyone harm you. Not Elric, not the council, not anyone. You have my word as king and my word as... He stopped, unsure how to finish that sentence. You have my word. Why? Lily's voice cracked. Why do you care? I'm just some human you met on the street. Why does it matter to you if I'm safe? Casimir had spent 300 years avoiding this question, this feeling, this vulnerability. He was a king. Kings did not confess weakness, did not admit to caring about anything they could not control. But standing in the feeding hall, with Lily's hand in his and her eyes searching his face for truth, he found he could not lie. Because when you laugh, I remember what joy sounds like, he said quietly. Because you feed strangers at 2 a.m. without asking what they deserve. Because you see the world the way I wish I still could, full of people worth caring about just because they exist. Because... He stopped, knowing that what came next would change everything. Because I think I'm falling in love with you, and I don't know how to stop. Lily stared at him. The feeding hall continued around them, vampires and donors engaged in their careful dance, but in that moment it was just the two of them, human and vampire, alive and undead, separated by 300 years and the width of a breath. "You can't love me," Lily whispered. "You're a vampire. I'm nobody." "You're Lily Foster. You run a midnight kitchen out of a laundromat because once, when you were a child, strangers were kind to you. You make terrible birthday cakes at 1 a.m. You optimize grocery shopping with spreadsheets. You laugh in the rain when your bags break. You are not nobody." "Casimir, I know it's impossible. I know I have no right to feel this way, no right to ask you for anything. But you asked why I care. That's why." Lily pulled her hand away, wrapping her arms around herself. "I need to think. Please, just give me time." "Of course." Casimir stepped back, giving her space. "I'll have someone show you back to your rooms." He left before he could say anything else, before he could make this worse than he already had. Confessing his feelings in the middle of a feeding hall, after she had just learned vampires were real and been kidnapped by his political enemies. Brilliant timing. Truly, the stuff of romantic legend. Theron was waiting in the corridor outside. "That went well," he said dryly. "Your commentary is not helpful." "My commentary is never helpful. That's not my function." "How is she?" "Frightened. Confused. Processing." Casimir leaned against the stone wall, suddenly exhausted in a way that had nothing to do with physical tiredness. "I told her I love her." "Ah, that explains the dramatic exit. She needed to know. She asked why I cared, and I couldn't lie to her anymore." "And what will you do if she leaves, when the month ends and she decides that living among vampires is not actually appealing?" "I'll let her go, and I'll make sure she's protected whether she knows it or not. Elric will try to have her killed the moment she's beyond my direct protection. I'll need guards assigned, discreetly. You're going to spend the rest of her mortal life protecting her from your own people." "If necessary, yes." Theron was quiet for a moment. Then, "You really do love her?" "Yes. This will be very complicated. I know. The Council will use it against you. I know that too. And you don't care." Casimir pushed away from the wall, straightening. "I care, but I care about her more. That's new for me. I'm not entirely sure what to do with it." "Neither am I, sire. Neither am I." Lily did not emerge from her rooms for 2 days. Casimir had food sent in, and books, and anything else she requested. She requested nothing except privacy, and he gave it to her, though it cost him more than he wanted to admit. On the 3rd day, she sent word that she wanted to see the city above. Casimir arranged an escort and went himself, unable to delegate this particular task to anyone else. They emerged after sunset into a city that glittered with artificial light and human life. Lily stood on the sidewalk outside the hidden entrance to the vampire complex and breathed in the night air like she had been drowning. "Better?" Casimir asked. "Yes. I just needed to remember that the normal world is still here, that all of that underground is real, but so is this." She gestured at the street, the passing cars, the distant sound of sirens. "It's all real," Casimir agreed. "We exist in the spaces between, hidden but present. I want to go to the laundromat. Lily, please, I need to see it. Need to make sure it's still there, that I didn't just dream the whole thing before falling into vampire politics." Casimir nodded to the guards to follow at a distance and walked with Lily through the city to the shuttered laundromat on 7th Street. It was locked, dark, exactly as she had left it 3 days ago. Lily produced a key from her pocket and opened the door. Inside, everything was exactly as they had left it, the camping stove, the folding tables, the supplies they had organized together. But there was dust now, the particular stillness of a space that had been abandoned. People will have come looking for food, Lily said quietly, and the door would have been locked. They'll think I just stopped, just gave up on them. We can reopen it, tonight if you want. Can we? I'm supposed to be staying underground, your vampire witness protection program. You agreed to stay for a month and let me show you our world. That doesn't mean you have to give up yours. Casimir moved to the camping stove, checking the propane. Besides, I promised you your kitchen. I always keep my promises. Lily looked at him, and some of the tension in her shoulders eased. You're very strange, Casimir Ravencourt. So, you've mentioned. They opened that night. Lily sent word through the network of people she knew, and by midnight there were a dozen visitors, all wanting to know where she had been. She told them a careful truth. Family emergency, had to leave town suddenly. Very sorry. Casimir stayed in the background and helped exactly the way he had before, carrying, preparing, cleaning up. It was almost normal, except for the vampire guards stationed outside, and the knowledge that beneath the city was an entire society of immortal predators, and the fact that Casimir had confessed his love and Lily had not yet responded. At 3 a.m. during a quiet moment, she said, I've been thinking. About everything. Vampires, blood, ethics, you. She was washing dishes, not looking at him. It's a lot to process. Take your time. I don't think I have time. You gave me a month, but it feels like everything is happening very fast. She finally looked up, meeting his eyes. You said you were falling in love with me. Yes. Why? I told you. No, I mean really why? You're a king. You're immortal. You could have anyone, any vampire, probably any human if you wanted. Why me? Casimir set down the dish he was drying. Because you're real. Everyone else I know is playing some game, positioning for advantage, hiding their true thoughts behind politics and courtesy. But you say what you mean. You do what you believe is right without calculating the benefit. When I'm with you, I don't have to be the king. I can just be, he struggled for the word, myself, whatever that means after 300 years. Yourself is still a vampire. Yes. Who drinks blood. Yes. And will live forever while I age and die. Yes. This was the truth he had been avoiding, the impossible mathematics of mortal and immortal. If you stay, if you choose to be with me in any capacity, I will watch you grow old. I will watch you die, and I will continue existing for centuries after, remembering you. It's not fair. It's not sustainable. It's probably a terrible idea for both of us. But you still want it. Yes. I am perhaps the most selfish creature you will ever meet. Lily was quiet for a long time, her hands still in the dishwater. Then, what if I didn't age and die? Casimir froze. What? You can turn people, right? Make them into vampires? That's a thing? Yes, but then that's a solution to the aging problem. Lily, no. You don't understand what you're asking. Becoming a vampire, it's not just living forever. It's becoming a predator. It's needing blood, burning in sunlight, watching everyone you knew grow old and die while you stay frozen. It's giving up food, children, a normal life. It's isolating and strange, and most people who are turned regret it within the first decade. But you don't regret it. I was dying when I was turned. Plague. I was in so much pain that death was a mercy and vampirism was a second chance. I didn't give anything up because I had nothing left to lose. You have a whole life ahead of you. A life of working call centers and running illegal kitchens out of abandoned buildings. Very glamorous. It's your life. It's human. It matters. Lily pulled her hands out of the dishwater and dried them carefully. I'm not saying I want to turn into a vampire tomorrow. I'm just saying if I decided to stay, if this became something that would be an option, eventually. It would be the worst decision you could make. That's my decision to make, isn't it? Casimir wanted to argue, to explain all the reasons why this was impossible, why she should run back to her normal life and forget she had ever met him. But looking at her face, at the determined set of her jaw, he recognized the same stubbornness that made her feed strangers at 2 a.m. Yes, he said finally. It's your decision. Always. They finished cleaning in silence, and then Casimir walked her back to the hidden entrance, the guards trailing behind. At the door, Lily stopped. I'm not running, she said. I want you to know that. I'm still angry you lied, and I'm still processing the whole vampire thing, and I have no idea if this is the worst idea in human history. But I'm not running. Why not? She smiled, tired but genuine. Because I think I might be falling in love with you too. And I want to see where that goes. Even if it's complicated, even if it's impossible, I want to try. Casimir felt something crack in his chest, some wall he had built 300 years ago to protect himself from caring too much. Lily, don't. Don't say anything to talk me out of it. Just tomorrow. Show me more. Show me how your world works. I want to understand. Tomorrow, Casimir agreed. I'll show you everything. The next 3 weeks passed in a strange sort of dream. Lily divided her time between the underground complex and the surface, learning vampire politics during the day or what passed for day in a world without sunlight, and running her kitchen at night. Casimir showed her everything: the council chambers, the blood banks, the archives where vampires recorded centuries of history, the apartments where younger vampires lived in something resembling normalcy. She asked endless questions. How old was the oldest vampire? 7,000 years living in seclusion in Egypt. Could they have children? No, and that was one of the greatest sources of grief for many. What happened if they didn't drink blood? They didn't die, but they weakened, became feral, dangerous. Were there vampire hunters? Yes, but fewer than legend suggested, and most were fanatics operating without government support. She met other vampires too. Theron, who regarded her with open skepticism but grudging respect. A vampire named Solene who ran the blood bank systems and was fascinated by Lily's optimization strategies. A young vampire named Kieran who had been turned only 50 years ago and still remembered being human, who talked to Lily for hours about the things he missed. And through it all, Casimir watched her, marveling at how she adapted, how she took the impossible in stride and found ways to make sense of it. She also found problems. Your donor system is good, she told him 2 weeks in, sitting in his private office while he reviewed territorial contracts. But it's not sustainable long term. You're relying on people desperate enough for money to sell their blood, which means you're selecting for the most vulnerable. And vulnerable people have fewer resources, which means their health is more likely to be compromised, which affects blood quality, which creates a feedback loop. We screen extensively, I know, but screening is reactive. You need proactive care, health insurance, housing support, mental health resources. If your donors are healthy and stable, they'll be more reliable, and the blood will be better quality. That would be expensive. Less expensive than constantly recruiting new donors because the existing ones burn out or develop health problems. You're thinking short term, I'm thinking sustainability. Casimir set down his papers and looked at her. You've been here 2 weeks and you're already redesigning vampire society. Someone needs to. Your chancellor is obsessed with tradition, and tradition is just peer pressure from dead people. You need new ideas. The council will hate this. The council hates me anyway. Elric looks at me like I'm a stain on his carpet. Might as well give him good reasons. She was right, of course. The council did hate the changes she proposed. But Casimir brought her suggestions to them anyway, watching Elric's face turn to stone as Lily, small, mortal, human. Lily stood before the council and explained how vampire logistics could be improved. You propose we provide housing for blood donors, Elric said flatly. That we employ human social workers, human doctors, human administrators, that we integrate mortal support systems into our feeding infrastructure. I propose you treat your donors like people instead of resources, Lily corrected. Which, yes, means providing support. It's better for them and better for you. Everyone wins. And you think you understand our needs better than we do? You, who have been aware of our existence for less than a month? I think I understand logistics and human dignity better than you do, yes. Lily's voice was calm but firm. You've been doing the same thing for centuries because it works well enough. I'm offering you something better. The council erupted. Half supported Lily's proposals, seeing the practical benefits. Half opposed them on principle, unable to accept that a mortal might have insights into vampire society. Casimir watched the debate and realized with absolute clarity that Lily had just accomplished what no vampire had managed in his entire reign. She had divided the council, created real debate about fundamental policy, forced them to question assumptions they had held for centuries. She was magnificent. The vote was close, but Lily's proposals passed. Implementation would begin within the month, pilot programs testing her ideas about donor care and support. Elric abstained from voting, his expression glacial. "You have signed your own death warrant," he told Lily after the session ended. "You have made yourself indispensable to this court, which means you have made yourself a target. There are vampires who will see you as a threat to the old ways, and they will not stop with council votes." "Then I guess it's good I have a vampire king who promised to protect me," Lily said. Elric's smile was sharp and cold. "Kings can be distracted. Promises can be broken. Sleep carefully, mortal. The underground has many shadows." Casimir stepped between them, and his voice dropped to a register that made even Elric take a step back. "If anything happens to her, Chancellor, I will hold you personally responsible, and my response will not be political." "Is that a threat, sire?" "It's a promise, and I keep my promises." They left the council chamber, and Casimir's hand found Lily's, holding tight. She was shaking just slightly, adrenaline crash setting in. "That was stupid," she said. "I shouldn't have antagonized him. You were brilliant. You just reorganized vampire society in under an hour. I also made an enemy of your chancellor, who definitely has the power and motivation to have me killed. He won't touch you. I'll make sure of it. You can't watch me every moment, Casimir. You're a king. You have responsibilities, meetings, a whole dominion to run. Then I'll assign guards. Theron will organize it. You'll have protection every moment you're not with me." Lily stopped walking and turned to face him. "This is insane. I'm one human. I'm not worth destabilizing your entire government over." "You are worth everything," Casimir said, and meant it. "Let me protect you. Please." She looked at him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Okay, but I'm not going to stop. If I see things that need fixing, I'm going to say so. I wouldn't want you any other way." The month was almost over. 4 more days, and Lily's trial period would end. She would have to decide, stay and become part of vampire society permanently, or leave and return to her mortal life. Casimir did not ask what she was thinking, did not press. He had promised her a free choice, and he would keep that promise even if it destroyed him. But on the last night before the deadline, Lily came to his private chambers at midnight. She had never been there before, and Casimir opened the door to find her standing in the corridor, wearing the same oversized jacket she had worn the night they met. "Can I come in?" she asked. "Always." She stepped inside and looked around. The rooms were large, luxuriously furnished in a mix of centuries, but somehow still impersonal. The home of someone who had lived too long to bother with decoration that would just be replaced eventually. "I've made my decision," Lily said. Casimir's chest went tight. "Tell me." "I want to stay. Not as a visitor, not as a guest. I want to stay permanently. I want to be with you. And..." She took a breath. "Eventually, when I'm ready, I want you to turn me. So we can have more than a mortal lifespan." Casimir was very still. "Lily, you don't have to." "I know I don't have to, but I want to. I've spent the last month learning about your world, and it's strange and complicated and sometimes frightening, but it's also beautiful. You're beautiful. The way you care about your people, the way you listen to ideas that challenge you, the way you're trying to be better than you were. I want to be part of that. And I don't want our time together limited to the next 50 or 60 years. She stepped closer. "So yes, I'm staying. If you'll have me. If I'll..." Casimir caught her face in his hands, careful of his strength. "Lily Foster, I have been in love with you since the night you laughed in the rain over spilled oranges. If you stay, if you give me the gift of your presence for however long you choose to remain mortal, I will spend every moment proving that you made the right choice." "That's a very elaborate way of saying yes," Lily said, but she was smiling. "Yes," Casimir said, and kissed her. It was the first time their lips had met, and Casimir felt the difference in temperature, his cold, hers warm, the beat of her pulse against his hands, the way she tasted like coffee and humanity and everything he had been missing for 300 years. When they broke apart, Lily was breathless and grinning. Okay, that was worth waiting for. I aim to please. So what happens now? Do I need to make some kind of formal announcement? Vampire paperwork? I'll inform the council tomorrow. And then, Casimir hesitated. Then we figure it out as we go. There's no rule book for this. Good. I hate rule books. They spent the rest of the night talking, planning, imagining a future that was suddenly possible. Lily would continue running her kitchen, but with resources now, Casimir would provide funding, supplies, whatever she needed. She would also work with Solène on donor care systems, implementing her proposals. And she would stay in the complex, in rooms adjacent to Casimir's, learning what it meant to be part of vampire society. Eventually, years from now, when she had lived enough human life and was ready, they would discuss turning. But that was future talk. For now, they had this: a vampire king and a mortal woman, against all odds and logic, choosing each other. The council meeting the next day was tense. Casimir announced Lily's decision to stay permanently, and the vote to accept her as a formal part of the court was closer than he liked. Elric voted against, along with 4 others, but the majority supported it, swayed by Lily's practical improvements and Casimir's obvious commitment. This is unprecedented, Elric said. A mortal given permanent residence in a vampire court. Mark this day, councillors. We will either look back on it as the beginning of a new era or as the moment we began our decline. I prefer the former, Casimir said, and I suspect history will agree. What Casimir did not see was Elric's expression after he left the chamber, did not see the Chancellor pull out his phone and make a single call, did not see the way Elric's lips curved into something that was not quite a smile. It's time, Elric said into the phone. The mortal stays. Proceed with the secondary option. The person on the other end confirmed receipt, and Elric ended the call. If Casimir would not be swayed by political pressure, then perhaps tragedy would succeed where rhetoric had failed. It was regrettable, but necessary. For the good of the Vale, for the safety of their kind, for the preservation of the natural order. 3 days later, the laundromat burned. Casimir was in a council meeting when Theron burst into the chamber, all protocol abandoned. Sire, the mortal's kitchen. There's been a fire. Casimir was moving before Theron finished speaking, racing through corridors at speeds that blurred human vision. Behind him, he heard others following Theron, some of the councillors, and somewhere in the chaos, Lily's voice calling his name. They emerged onto the street to find the laundromat fully engulfed, flames pouring from the windows, smoke billowing into the night sky. Fire trucks surrounded the building, firefighters spraying water, but it was clear the structure was a loss. Lily made a sound like something breaking and tried to run forward. Casimir caught her, held her back from the heat. No, it's too dangerous. My kitchen. Everything, all the supplies, the stove, the tables. Her voice cracked. People needed that. People relied on that. Casimir held her while she sobbed, and over her shoulder he saw Elric standing at the edge of the crowd. Their eyes met, and the Chancellor's expression was carefully neutral. But Casimir knew with absolute certainty that this had been deliberate, that Elric had arranged this to break Lily's spirit, to prove that mortal projects had no place in vampire worlds. I'm going to kill him, Casimir said softly. Lily pulled back, looking up at him with tear-stained face. What? Elric. He did this. I know he did, and I am going to end him for it. You can't know for sure. I can. I do. And he will pay for this. Casimir. Lily gripped his arms, forcing him to focus on her. Don't do something you'll regret because of me. It's just a building. We can rebuild. It's not just a building. It's your work, your purpose. He destroyed it to hurt you, to hurt me, to prove that you don't belong in my world, and I will not tolerate it. Then don't tolerate it, but don't commit murder either. There has to be another way. Casimir looked down at her, at the determination on her face even through tears, and felt something shift. She was right. Killing Elric would solve nothing, would likely make things worse, create martyrs, and fuel for opposition. If he wanted to prove that Lily's presence made things better, that her approach could work, he needed to do it properly. Another way, he repeated. Yes. All right. The investigation took 2 days. Casimir called in every resource he had, both vampire and human, to determine the fire's cause. The result was unsurprising. Arson. Accelerant-based, deliberately set. Security footage from nearby buildings had been mysteriously corrupted, but one camera in an alley 3 blocks away showed 2 vampires leaving the area just before the fire started. Casimir recognized them both. They were young, only a century old, and both were directly connected to Elric's house. The emergency council session was called for midnight. Casimir had the evidence projected on the chamber walls, the footage, the arson investigation, the financial records showing Elric had paid the 2 vampires substantial sums 3 days before the fire. You ordered the destruction of a mortal establishment, Casimir said, his voice echoing through the stone chamber. You arranged arson. You attempted to harm someone under my direct protection. Elric stood in the center of the chamber floor, and his expression was defiant rather than apologetic. I did what was necessary to protect the Veil. That building was making your mortal visible, making her important, creating connections between our world and theirs. It was a security risk. It was a kitchen, Lily said from her seat beside Casimir's throne. I fed hungry people. That's not a security risk. That's just basic human decency. You are not human anymore, Elric shot back. Not fully. You have been accepted into this court, which means you exist in our world now. Your mortal projects are distractions, weaknesses. I simply removed the distraction. You committed arson, Casimir said quietly. You violated our laws against interfering with mortal affairs without authorization. You attacked someone I had explicitly placed under my protection. These are capital crimes, Chancellor. Then execute me. Elric spread his arms. But know that half this council agrees with me, even if they won't say so publicly. The mortal is a liability. Her presence here is a corruption of everything we are, and if removing me doesn't remove her, then you will face this challenge again and again until someone succeeds. The chamber was silent. Casimir looked around at his counselors and saw that Elric was at least partially right. Fear, doubt, resentment, it was written on enough faces that executing Elric would solve nothing. He needed a different approach. I will not execute you, Casimir said finally. But you are removed from your position as Chancellor, effective immediately. Your house will be fined for the destruction you caused, and you will personally fund the rebuilding of the kitchen you destroyed. I will not. You will. Because the alternative is execution for treason against your king. And while I am merciful enough to spare your life, I am not merciful enough to let you escape all consequences. Casimir stood, and every vampire in the chamber felt the weight of his age and power. The Veil codes you love so much are being rewritten. As of tonight, the prohibition against serving mortals is removed. Vampires may choose to interact with humans however they wish, provided they maintain secrecy about our nature. The codes about rank and servitude are antiquated, born from fear rather than strength. We will be strong enough to be honest with ourselves about what we are. People, not just predators. Beings capable of more than just feeding and hiding. The chamber erupted. Half the council was shouting support, the other half outrage. But Casimir was not listening to them. He was looking at Lily, whose eyes had gone wide with shock. The codes are rewritten, Casimir continued, speaking over the noise. And the new vision for the Eastern Dominion is this. We will maintain the Veil, always. We will protect our secrecy and our safety. But we will also acknowledge that our relationship with humans can be more than predator and prey. We can be partners, collaborators, and in rare cases, he held Lily's gaze, we can be family. The vote to ratify the new codes took hours. It passed, but barely. The Eastern Dominion was divided, split between those who wanted to cling to the old ways and those willing to try something new. Elric was removed from power, his influence broken. The vampires who had set the fire were punished, and Casimir set aside a substantial portion of the Dominion's resources for rebuilding the kitchen. Not as a laundromat this time, but as a proper facility with industrial appliances, storage, seating for 50. You didn't have to do all this, Lily said, standing in the empty space that would become the new kitchen. The codes, the building, all of it. I did, Casimir replied, because you were right, about everything. And if I'm going to be king, I should be a king worth following. You're already that. I'm becoming that, with your help. The new kitchen opened 6 months later. It was called Haven, and it served food 7 nights a week, staffed by a mix of human volunteers and vampire supporters. Lily ran it with the same meticulous care she had brought to the laundromat, but now with resources that let her feed hundreds instead of dozens. And in the same building, on a separate floor accessible only by a secured elevator, was a donation center for the vampire community. Donors came to give blood in comfortable surroundings, with full medical support and generous compensation. The 2 operations shared administrative staff, creating exactly what Lily had proposed. Supply with dignity for both humans and vampires. It was unprecedented. It was controversial. But it worked. 2 years later, Lily and Casimir stood on the roof of Haven, looking out over the city at night. It was a rare moment of peace, stolen from schedules that were constantly full. I've been thinking, Lily said, about turning, becoming a vampire. Casimir went very still beside her. You don't have to rush that decision. We have time. We have some time, but I'm not getting younger, and you're not getting older. And I think... She turned to face him. I think I'm ready. I've lived as a human. I've done the things that mattered to me. I've built something that will last even after I'm gone. And now I want to do something different. I want to have centuries instead of decades. I want to build things that take 100 years instead of 1. I want to be with you for a very, very long time. It will change you, Casimir warned, in ways you can't predict. Your relationships with humans will shift. You'll lose some of what makes you who you are. I'll also gain things, strength, time, perspective, and I'll still be me, just more durable. She smiled. Besides, you turned out okay. After 300 years, you still remember how to care about people. If you can do it, so can I. Casimir pulled her close, and for a moment they just stood there, vampire and human, immortal and mortal, together against the night. When? He asked. Soon, before I turn 30, I want to make that birthday count. They planned carefully. Turning a human was a serious undertaking, requiring medical support, secure location, and time. The process was painful, took 3 days, and had a small but real failure rate. Casimir wanted every possible precaution. Lily's 29th birthday arrived in spring. She spent the day saying goodbye to people who could not know what was really happening. Her roommate, her co-workers at the call center she had finally quit, the regular visitors to Haven who thought she was just taking an extended vacation. That night, in a secure room deep in the underground complex, with Theron and a vampire doctor standing by, Casimir sat beside Lily's bed and took her hand. Last chance to change your mind, he said. Not changing it. Let's do this. Casimir had turned humans before, centuries ago, but it felt different now. This was Lily. This was choosing to end her mortality, to transform her into something else. If it went wrong, if she died, if she turned feral, if she became a vampire who regretted her choice, he would never forgive himself. But she had asked for this, had chosen it freely, with full knowledge. He bit his wrist first, letting his blood well up. Drink, he said. As much as you can. Lily drank. It was harder than it looked. Vampire blood thick and strange. But she kept swallowing until Casimir pulled his wrist away. Now the hard part, he said softly, and kissed her forehead once before biting down on her neck. Human blood flooded his mouth, warm and alive, and Lily. He drank carefully, measuring, taking enough to bring her to the edge, but not over. Her heartbeat slowed, her breathing became shallow. When he finally pulled away, she was pale, barely conscious. "Sleep," he whispered. "When you wake, it will be done." Lily's eyes fluttered closed. Casimir stayed beside her, holding her hand, while the transformation began. Her body convulsed once, twice. The doctor monitored vitals, watching for the signs of successful turning. Theron stood guard at the door, ensuring they would not be disturbed. 3 days passed. Casimir left only when absolutely necessary, always returning to sit beside Lily's still form, watching for any sign of change. On the 3rd night, her eyes opened. They were still brown, still Lily's eyes, but there was something different in them now, a clarity, a sharpness that had not been there before. "Casimir." Her voice was hoarse. "I'm here. How do you feel?" "Strange. Everything is loud, bright. I can hear your heart. Except you don't have a heartbeat. How can I hear something that isn't there?" She sat up slowly, and the movement was too fast, too fluid. "Oh, this is weird." "It will take time to adjust, but you're alive. You turned successfully." "I'm a vampire." Lily looked at her hands, turning them over. "I'm actually a vampire now. That's insane. Welcome to the family." She laughed, and it sounded the same joy, genuine and bright. That at least had not changed. The adjustment period was difficult. Lily had to learn to control her new strength, to manage the overwhelming sensory input, to deal with the burning need for blood that rose every few days. She had to learn to move through a world made of fragile things, to remember that humans could not hear or see or move the way she now could. But she adapted. Of course she adapted. This was Lily, who had built a kitchen and a laundromat and reorganized vampire society in less than a month. She learned vampire protocols, trained in combat with Theron, studied the politics and history of their world. And she continued running Haven, now with the unique perspective of understanding both sides, human and vampire, mortal and immortal. The facility grew, expanded, became a model for other cities. Other vampire dominions sent representatives to study what the Eastern Dominion was doing, to see if the integration could work elsewhere. 5 years after Lily's turning, the Council formally recognized Haven as a Dominion institution, fully funded and protected. It was, they admitted, a better system than what they had before. More ethical, more sustainable, more humane. Elric, stripped of his position but still alive, attended the ceremony. He approached Lily afterward, his expression unreadable. "You were right," he said stiffly, "about the donor care, about dignity and systems. The improvements have been significant." "Thank you," Lily said, carefully neutral. He had tried to destroy her work, had nearly killed her. She had not forgiven that, but she could acknowledge growth. "I still believe the old codes had value," Elric continued. "But perhaps there was room for new interpretation." "Perhaps there was," Lily agreed. He nodded once and left, and Lily watched him go. Some vampires would never fully accept the changes, would always long for the hierarchies and certainties of the past. But enough had accepted them, had chosen to try something different. That was enough. 10 years after the night it rained and oranges rolled into traffic, Casimir and Lily stood on the roof of Haven again. The city spread out below them, lights and life and endless possibility. "We did it," Lily said. "Actually made it work." "You did it. I just supported you. We're partners. We did it together." She leaned against him, and he wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "I still think about that night sometimes, when my grocery bag broke and you just appeared. Like fate or magic or something." "I think about it constantly," Casimir admitted. "It was the first time in a century that I felt like something other than a function. You gave me that. You gave me eternity. Seems like a fair trade. The best trade I ever made." They stood together watching the city, Vampire King and Vampire Queen in all but title, partners in building something new from the ashes of the old. The Eastern Dominion had changed, was still changing, would continue to change as long as they let it. And somewhere below, in the warm light of Haven's kitchen, Humans and vampires worked side by side, feeding the hungry, providing for those in need, proving that the distance between predator and prey was not as vast as anyone had believed. It had started with groceries in the rain and a stranger's kindness. It had become a revolution, and it was only the beginning.